the one, the only Benzion. Good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun with Benzion. Today's daf is Sotah, daf Yud Aleph number 11. I want to talk today about Pesach. Well, the beginning of Pesach, the Shiva of Mitzrayim, which necessitated leaving Egypt on Pesach. There's a famous, the beginning of Sefer Shmos talks about Vayakol Melech Chadash HaMitzrayim. The Gemara and Rashi there quotes our Gemara. It's Melech Rav and Shmuel. Rav and Shmuel Machlokas. Vayakol Melech Chadash HaMitzrayim Asher Lo Yos Yosef. A new king came that didn't know Yosef. So one person says in the middle of Yud Aleph and Aleph, one says it was Kadosh Mamash. Paro died, a new king came. So he didn't know Yosef personally, so therefore he felt like he could enslave the Jews. Another one says, and this seems to be the main opinion, that it was really the same Paro. But once Yosef died, Niskashuk Zerosav. And he made himself like he forgot Yosef. Now, what exactly happened over here? I mean, technically we know he changed his mind, according to the second aspect. He changed his mind, new policies, Yosef's gone. Is there something deeper over here? And I've talked about this on various platforms various different lectures and shows that I give. I've talked about the root of anti-Semitism. I believe anytime a nation wants to annihilate the Jews, it's due to anti-Semitism. What is the source of anti-Semitism? A lot of people think it has to do with the Jews are very rich. I don't know how rich they were in Egypt. They're very rich. I think it has to do with the fact that, Rashi says that when they first went to Mitzrayim, Yehuda Yaakov instructed Yehuda to set up Goshen, to set up a separate place in Mitzrayim in Egypt where they should they should learn a yeshiva to learn from. Now, during the years when Yosef was alive and there was famine and he was saving Egypt, all the credit to the financial success of the Egyptian empire was due to Yosef. Once Yosef died, and the focus was, okay, these people, they're citizens of Egypt, but they're learning Torah. They have their yeshivas. Now, I'm not saying they weren't part of the workforce or whatever, but there's definitely a significant part of them not part of the workforce, which is similar to a lot of modern day Judaism now. A lot of the way it was in Europe, in Eastern Europe. It's not so much the learning; it's the yeshivish lifestyle where you want to be different than them, right? There's nothing wrong with yeshiva. Yeshiva is a good thing. People should stay in yeshiva and learn, at least before they're married, and accumulate as much Torah knowledge, both in breadth and depth as possible. But you don't want to make yourself conspicuous and stand out and be different than other nations. And a lot of times, people who spend a lot of time in yeshiva, or you're learning in kollel your entire life, you're going to become very different than the rest of the world. And when people see that people are just different, they do different strange things than them, and they believe their policies are the right way of living, people get jealous of that. They don't like that. They don't like people. No one likes someone who's different and weird and eccentric and just doing things that don't make any sense to them, at least. And that yeshivish lifestyle eventually took hold. In the beginning, it didn't, because they had Yosef. They attributed all the financial success to Yosef. Once Yosef died, they focused on, hey, these have yeshiva. They're learning yeshiva, but they have the yeshivish communities over there, and then they started putting blame on them not joining the workforce. So immediately they said, let them build pitom v'ramses, let them build cities over here, And even the Gemara says, really, according to most opinions, originally it wasn't right away that they made them do arduous work. At first they perach, they tried to cajole them. And it didn't work. You think about Israel, I'm not comparing the two, it's a different situation, but a lot of people have complaints that the Haredi people don't join the army in Israel, even though it's compulsory service for all men that are 18 years old, and women also, Sheirut Lami. There's an exemption, it's been an exemption for a long time in Israel. I'm not saying my opinion whether they should join. Right now, I don't think it's necessary. I think they have enough people, but I do think if everyone is serving, I think even if you're yeshivish or Haredi, I think you should be serving in the army. Maybe not in the front lines, but something to help out the cause, because you're part of a nation, you're part of the country, and I believe that to be the truth. Also, if it's practically doesn't make sense. Right now, they have enough people in the army. They don't need any more people in the army, and a lot of people, Haredi people, are not going to mesh well into the army, so it's not really going to help. But technically, I do believe they should be a part of it. And originally, try to cajole them, be part of society, be like everyone else, be part of the workforce, right? They said, no, 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 we're not doing it. We're not doing it. They got angry, and that really led to the anti-Semitism. He pretended he didn't know Yosef. It was really the same king. He didn't know Yosef. Yosef was gone. Yosef brought financial prosperity to Egypt. He saved them from a dire famine. But once it was over, people's outlook changes, and they said, wait a second, these Jews are sitting here. A lot of them are sitting in Goshen, they're learning Torah. They're very different than us. That's the main point. They're different than us. Let them work. Let them be part of the workforce. Let at least cajole them. They wouldn't do that. So then they enslaved them and they worked them very hard. So obviously the Gemara says the reason they were enslaved in Mitzrayim has something to do with, the Gemara says it was the jealousy that Yaakov caused between his sons by giving Yosef Ketonas Pasim. But in a more direct sense, what precipitated this was anti-Semitism, which is basically from the word Semite, right? It's not called anti-Judaism. Anti-Semitism, Semitism comes from the word shame. Shame was yeshiva shem aver. The first yeshiva shem aver. When you're acting in yeshivish way, yeshivish style, and you're living a totally different life than your host nation, they're gonna get jealous. They're gonna be upset at you, especially if you're not joining the workforce and you're doing things in a totally different way. And that, in the short term, I believe precipitated the Shuvah Mitzrayim. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.